And I think, and Josh, what you've said multiple times while you were telling your stories is that Dad was always someone we could talk to about anything. We could always tell him the truth. Welcome to the Relational Parenting Podcast. I'm Jennifer Hayes, a parent coach and 20-year childcare veteran. Each week, I sit down with my own father, Rick Hayes, and discuss the complicated issues that parents face today, as well as some of the oldest questions in the book. From the latest research and the framework of my relational parenting method, we offer thought-provoking solutions to your deepest parenting struggles. Added bonuses include intergenerational wounding discussions and guest childcare experts. We will also start taking your parenting questions in episode 5, so be sure to comment with your biggest questions or email me directly at jennie@jennieb.co. Let's get started. As some of you may know, Papa Rick passed away unexpectedly on February 1st, 2024. This episode is our tribute to him. We could fill many hours talking about the impact that our dad had on our lives, but we managed to edit it into a 90-minute episode so that we could share it with the world and with the parenting realm that meant so much to him. We are so grateful to have had our dad for as long as we did, and his presence in our lives will be missed forever. We hope this episode serves to shed light on Papa Rick's life, as well as his passing, and honors his memory in the process. The podcast will live on, and we hope you come with us as we navigate a new path forward. Thank you to each and every one of you who has been with us so far. It means the world to us. Alrighty, welcome back, everybody, to the Relational Parenting Podcast. I'm here this week with my two brothers, Nathan and Josh. Nathan is my younger brother. Josh is my older brother. Say hi, you guys.
Hi, you guys. I'm Nathan.
I'm Josh.
And yeah, you guys are joining me today because we wanted to do a tribute episode to Dad before I felt I was capable of continuing the podcast without him, given that we started it together and did all of the things together. So thank you both for being here and helping me with this.
Check's in the mail, right?
Nobody so far gets paid to do any of this. We have a Patreon for anyone who would like to donate. We're also looking for sponsors. So no, there's no check in the mail.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah, Nathan, why don't you go first? Why don't you just tell people a little bit about yourself?
My name's Nathan. I am 33. We're just south of you in Colorado. We're in Colorado Springs. And we just moved back out here from Pennsylvania, my wife and I, and our two dogs. And yeah, we're just excited to be back close. And Josh, you're going to be out here soon, and we're getting the band back together. And that's about all there is to me.
After how many years have we all, 15, 17 years that we haven't, since we were teenagers, since Josh, I guess even longer than that, since Josh went to college. The three of us haven't.
There's just like summers, yeah.
Almost 20 years since we've all lived anywhere near each other.
Yeah.
So this will be the first time in 20 years that we're all within an hour and a half and in the same state.
Yeah, coming this summer.
Woohoo.
Cool beans.
What about you, Josh? What does your life look like?
Well, my life is looking on the up and up. Can't wait to be in Colorado here in a few months, come June, and just what I'm doing to get things ready in the meantime. But yeah, I've been in Texas now since. Oh yeah, by the way, hi, I'm Josh. 38. and living here in Texas now officially, 2012, so 12 years. Yeah, got 2 kids, beautiful wife, a dog and a cat, and Texas has been great. But yeah, life happens, and where we thought we'd retire has become our point of settling in to a better place to where we will officially retire in life in the long term and be near family in Colorado. So we're stoked, and so are the kids. And yeah, and other than that, ready to move forward in life and share some of the dad experiences to help anyone who's looking at relational parenting watching the podcast. So glad to be a part of it.
And Josh, you have 2 kids, and I have my first on the way. There's baby Kaya we're 7 months along now. And Nathan, you guys don't have kids.
Yeah, rub it in.
Just so,
he has a dog
by choice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Not announcing some personal medical thing.
No kids for us yet.
So we're all in different ages and stages of our parenting journey. But yeah, so this we're just starting off with we just wanted to start off and tell stories about Dad, and share what it was like growing up with him as a father. And we also wanted to touch on a topic that's actually even parenting related, which is that every child, even in the same family, grows up with a different parent, even when that parent is the same person. So our dad, was the same person. He was all of our dad, each of our dad. I don't know how to say that.
Nailed it.
Yeah. And so he was dad to all of us, but our experience of him as a father varies just because, like we've said before on the podcast, every child's going to require a different version of you as a parent because children are unique. And I think Dad played that role with each of us as well.
So what happened to Dad?
My God.
Sorry. This is how I'm going to get through it.
No, that's okay.
This is how I'm going to get through the whole thing.
We should actually touch on that. And I meant to touch on that because I shared very, very little on social media and or on the last episode, just like the snippet where I kind of announced to everybody that we were on a hiatus momentarily. So Dad was 65 years old, and he was living in Illinois with his partner Judy, and he had a heart attack. We don't know why. We have, theories, lifestyle, there's, whatever. But he was
Family history.
Yeah. But he was home with Judy, that night, January 31st, and was in the recliner and they were just watching TV, and he was kind of snoozing in and out. And Judy then heard him making some odd noises, and making some odd movements, that concerned her. And she tried to wake him up and he wouldn't respond. And so she then called 911 and did CPR until an ambulance got there, where EMTs took over life-saving procedures, got him in an ambulance to take him to the hospital. And correct me, because Judy just told me this story not that long ago. She said that they could find a mild pulse, a very weak pulse, in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, but then he pretty quickly passed away. They couldn't resuscitate him in any capacity. Yeah. So
I hadn't heard the part about having a pulse, but
yeah, we had a random phone conversation like a week ago. And she recounted the story. It was the first time I'd heard the story from her.
Oh, okay.
I'd only heard it from the two of you. And so bless her for
she's been through it.
Everything that she went through trying to help and save him, and then losing him. And the trauma of that, having to try to resuscitate the person that you're in a relationship with. But yeah, so he passed away just after midnight on February 1st. And it is now March 8th. So we all found out, you guys found out that night. My husband and my phone were on Do Not Disturb, so we did not wake up to the phone calls, which is odd because I'd been having, for weeks leading up to this, I had been having these like thoughts of like, you've had your phone on Do Not Disturb for years at night so that, all the notifications and emails and dumb stuff that pops up doesn't vibrate and wake you up. Like, what if something happens to somebody and like you need to answer a call in the middle of the night? And I hadn't changed that habit, but anyway.
Well, similarly, I always have my phone on silent, and that was the one night like ever that I forgot to put it on until I got the call from Josh. My philosophy on that has always just been, if you miss a call, even a tragic call like that, I guess my justification or whatever was just like, it doesn't change anything,
Yeah.
But anyway.
In a reality, it was a good thing that your phone was silenced on Do Not Disturb, sis, because that gave us a chance to kind of go about breaking the news to you, because it was breaking our hearts that we couldn't both be there in person. But I was happy Nathan was there to be able to be up there, and we could run it by Lewis on how to, break the news and ease it in for you, which there's really no easing it in. But that way we had a little bit of coordination, and, being with the baby and everything, we were just, it was a good thing to be able to kind of work our way through those concerns and do the best that we could to help you through that morning, because that's the hardest thing to ever wake up to. And I know, because when I got the call from Judy that night, right at a little before, well, it was right after midnight. That was one of the things that making those calls was the hardest and longest night I've ever had to do. Yeah. So, and it's
who all
everyone
did
different.
You call, Josh? Did you call Mom and Steve and?
Yeah, we called
and then Nathan and
Mom and Steve, Nathan and Rob and Judy. Back and forth with Rob and Judy for a good long while that night. And then Mom and Steve, of course, their phones were actually on a vibrate, but we finally got through to them, and I was glad they picked up. And then talking to Nathan after that, that was difficult. Nathan kind of went into one-on-one mode, and then it was just going from there to, how are we going to let Jennie know? And I can't get a hold of her or Lewis, but we left some numbers and text messages, and I'm sure we'll hear from them soon enough. And the next morning I did, and we worked our way through it. I had no
missed calls, so nobody tried to get a hold of me. I think you guys were adamant about getting hold of Lewis.
Actually, your phone went straight to voicemail. I couldn't get a ring out of your phone. I do remember that.
I wonder if that's the Do Not Disturb thing.
Probably.
Yeah.
But either way, I think our main mission after we, had 10 seconds to think about it was like I got the news broken over the phone in the middle of the night, just like you did, Josh. Not that there's a good way, just like you said earlier, but like if I had a choice, I'd rather somebody show up that I love and care about tell me, in person and have that moment. And so I think we collectively kind of thought that and thought that was the best, especially since you and Dad have been doing this, and your guys' relationship has just been so much closer. And I don't want to speak for you, Josh, than I think either of us, in the last year or so, or a couple years. So.
Yeah, I think especially with the podcast, it just kind of naturally gave us more FaceTime together. And we had this like project we were working on weekly.
Mm-hmm.
So we were definitely in communication a lot more often. But yeah, so you guys found out first, and then you guys got a hold of Lewis. So I woke up that morning thinking it was any other day. I didn't have any calls or texts on my phone, which I later found out was a well-coordinated plan by everyone.
It's a conspiracy.
And you guys had called Lewis, though. So Lewis woke up to many missed calls, and he went in the other room to call you guys back. And then, of course, you told him the news. But when I woke up, he was not in bed. He was in a different room, which is very unusual because usually, he has a routine. He gets up, he goes in the bathroom, closes the door, does his little like morning getting ready stuff. And then he takes the dogs and goes downstairs and starts the day while I kind of wake up slowly. So hearing him come out of a door in the house that I was like, why was he in his office? Like, that's weird. Like first thing in the morning. So I asked him, I was like, hey, what's going on? And he was like, oh, nothing. I was just on the phone with Bird, one of his friends. And I was like, how's he doing? And he was giving me these like one word, like he was just acting very, he was just trying to like keep it together.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, fine. I was like, you're a storyteller.
Yeah. We
this
remember,
isn't normal.
I remember when we talked to him and we were like, we really don't want to put you in a spot, where you have to be deceptive or anything like that.
Yeah.
We were concerned about that. We didn't want to make it, a worse situation than it already was.
No, I don't think you did. I think a past version of me, maybe a non-pregnant version of me, and or I don't know, would have been offended or felt left out, or whatever. But there's whether it's personal growth on my part through, because Lewis is he's a very protective husband. We didn't meet till we were in our 30s, and I've been a very independent person. And growing up with just brothers, I was always very I had a lot of pride around being able to handle myself and take care of myself, and I don't need anything from anybody. And even, Lewis early on in our relationship we had to work through some stuff because I was like, I don't need you to take care of me, and blah, blah. Anyway, but all I felt that morning was very well taken care of and very cared for, because I knew you guys were also very concerned about me being pregnant and the stress of that coupled with getting this news. So anyway, Lewis made the call to let me get up and start getting ready for the day, because mornings are really hard for me anyway. And so he wanted me to kind of get up and get dressed and get ready as if I was going to work. And then he was going to tell me. And then there was a coordination also. He had to tell me in time for me to be able to call off work with reasonable notice, and was trying to wait for you, Nathan, to get here from Colorado Springs. Because you were trying
timing.
Right, so you were trying to get up here in person to be here to tell me. And so, but we got a little too close to my time to leave for work. And so Lewis then had to tell me,
which I think is probably you not to speak for you, but I'm sure that was probably best anyway, to kind of give you a moment to let that sink in, because we both kind of had that on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we, like, our 3 dogs were 2 of our dogs are 10 and have been with me for many years and are both highly in tune with my emotions. Like, if I cry about anything for any reason, one of them is like, he's like goes and barks at the wind, like he's like barking for help, like mom's upset, like what do we do? And so we had kind of a family moment where the dogs were like, they're like, what's wrong with mom? Like, and I mean, Lewis was crying too. Like, we were crying and on the couch together, and the dogs were literally like climbing in between us up onto our laps, like trying to like take care of us and figure out what was wrong. And so we had kind of like a 5-bodied like hug cry session. So yeah. So I think that, because if I hadn't gotten up out of bed, gotten dressed, like gotten kind of ready for the day, I don't know that I would have had the strength to, like, after getting that news and then trying to coordinate plans with you guys, because then it was all about, who's flying home, or, who's driving, how are we all getting to Illinois, because we are next of kin. So that whole burden of arrangements and things fell on us. And to be fair, mostly fell on Josh.
Yeah, Josh was the point man for like all of this.
I'm going to say that just started the epic adventure of that following week for everybody, with everything that happened, from the skunk tails to Jen, your car accident on the way up, and you and Kristen in the raccoon fight, and then my car issues, and then Nathan and Ton almost hitting a skunk. And I mean, it was just like, what else can happen in this weekend? Yeah, it was intense for everybody. I at one point I was just like, how much time can I take off? And I need to call. And I was, you were just, all you could do was kind of react. There was barely any time to be proactive, because every time we were doing something else was happening. And I'm just like, good Lord God, what more can you fit in this day, let alone weeks? So we just worked through it though, best we could. But man, that week we'll be telling stories about that week for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. That so February 1st, we all woke up to that news, and then I got on the road with Kristen 6 hours later to head home, and then she and I were in a major car accident in Kansas. And I was almost 25 weeks pregnant at that point. And we rolled the car, ambulance, fire trucks, transported, ER, fetal monitoring overnight, fiasco. How are we getting home? Are we going to continue on to Illinois? All the things. I've never been in a car accident. That was my first one. And it was a hell of a one to be in while pregnant on the same day that my dad died. So I just kept telling everybody, I was like, 2 of my absolute worst fears, a parent dying and getting in a car accident while pregnant, like, were top of my list of like just lifelong fears. Happened in the same, like, within 14 hours of each other. But everybody was okay. We got back to Colorado, decided that we were not going to continue driving another 10 hours or whatever, that I needed to be home. And thank goodness, because as soon as I got home the next day, all 3 of our dogs were sick. Well, it was like one dog, and then the next day, the next dog, and then the next day, the next dog. All got, stress-induced giardia. So then we were taking dogs to the vet all week and trying to help you guys with funeral arrangements and writing obituaries and all
Lewis's
of those
car.
things.
I remember Lewis's car died, and you were having to
Lewis's
shop for a
car
new one
died.
too.
So it was like, do we pay
stuff.
the thousands of dollars to fix it, or do we just buy a new car? Like, it was like you said, Josh, it was literally everything everywhere all at once. That could be going wrong, like major.
As Dad would say, Murphy's Law. Murphy's
Law.
Yeah. But we also had that whole week people in our lives just completely surround us and help us and show up in ways that that you would feel weird asking for. People were just there.
You can't even think to ask,
Yeah, I was shocked to see and hear people last minute the day before the celebration of life. Some of the buds I knew growing up in college that had moved out of state, states over, and they were on their way. I'm like, holy shit. I was surprised to hear and see they were coming. And then a couple of them surprised me just showing up there. And I didn't even recognize one of them. He had changed so much and away until I looked closer at him. And Carmen was like, "Hey, look at that." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I see the altar looks pretty good. I like how they did the deck. No, look at that." And it took me her a few times. And I turned around and there's Josh Dye right next to Logan. I didn't recognize Josh at first. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Josh Dye. And seeing everybody, John and Katie coming from Chicago, and Logan and his dad, and Josh from Nashville, and it's just a pouring of people coming in from all over. So it was very much needed to help with that. And couldn't have had a better turnout and a better celebration, I think, after it all came together in the end. But it's still one of those times where it's like, okay, I need another week now just to process, once to get back home. But getting back home after that, at least for me, it was the biggest help in routines and being able to process and work through stuff. So that week was every day getting up and doing a plan and trying to figure things out and time it, and then be most effective to getting stuff done. And meeting up later on was a challenge. Dad, when the going thing was, Dad got out of moving again. We got to move all his stuff. It was like third or fourth time. And he was everything he had was in a different city. He had stuff in Decatur, stuff in Bloomington, Mason City, Springfield, and we're driving all around doing all this stuff. Like, all right, where are we going to today? Where are we starting first at? And where are we going to set up HQ at? Judy's over the weekend, Mom's during the weekday. It was always an adventure every single day getting that stuff together. But the running joke was he was sitting up there with Lisa and Yetta, Carmen's mom, and his sister, and they were laughing at us because he got out of moving again, and he's watching us go through all this turmoil trying to get all his shit squared away. And I think especially going through that storage locker, Nathan, that was a load of fun. And I didn't even get to partake in all of that. You did the majority of that right before I got there. So
yeah, we all had our duties, right? You did a lot of a lot, period. And you were handling a lot of the financial stuff and paperwork and this and that, and I picked things up and I put them down. We all have our strengths.
Everybody handled what they were good at. That's all you could do. Speaking of which, though, you brought up a good point. If there's two takeaways from going through all this for anybody who's listening, write down your password somewhere or get a piece of software to use for that. Highly recommend. And a will can actually help a lot.
Wills
too.
And passwords.
Yep.
Keys to human existence.
Simplifies everything.
Nathan is, you're still trying to get into.
Yeah, I got my dad workstation over in the corner.
His phone and laptops and
which is
stuff like
kind
that.
of ironic because I'm like probably of all of us the most analog type person, like low tech. Like setting this whole setup, for the podcast was hilarious, and I don't know. and now I'm trying to hack into. I have a lot of help. It's not me doing most of it, but trying to hack into these types of things and navigate that.
Yeah.
Dad be cracking up. Be like, why didn't you listen to me all those years? This is easy.
Well, and Dad had his own version of organization that was very scattered for anyone else from the outside looking in.
Pure chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos organization.
Yeah.
But if you asked him where all his passwords were, he'd be like, oh, right here.
You could pull the one piece of paper knowing where it's at out of a bundle and pile of papers on the corner on top of a desk inside of a drawer and know exactly where it was at.
Yeah.
I have the same version of organization, but I've adapted in my life to make it look organized on the outside. Like if you walk into my office, you'd be like, oh, this is a nice, clean, organized office.
Yeah. Does your office have a Monica closet?
It doesn't. Well, maybe there's just like a pile right here. Just junk. I have like one small pile on the floor that's just like, I'll go through that someday.
That's the pile that brings you joy.
Yeah. This is my ADHD joy pile.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, if you you unfortunately couldn't be there, selfish, but
a major car wreck, it's fine.
But yeah, it was scary. I think you would have identified with a lot of his organizational skills. I know I did when we were just like going through things. It was a million things at once, but it was definitely like, oh God, this is gonna be me at 65, or this is me. It's like, anyway, it was interesting to see a lot of the similarities, and it was like nice and awful at the same
terrifying.
Time. Yeah.
Like, oh God, is this where I'm headed?
Is this what my wife puts up with? Oh no. I'm the worst. I'm the bad roommate.
I'm the bad roommate. Yeah. So that week, I mean, was terrible for so many reasons and in so many ways, but I think we can all agree, and we've all kind of touched on this in the interim conversations that we've had, of like the three of us having to work together that closely for the first time. I mean, for the first time inside of tragedy, but for the first time since we were kids and would come up with dumb ideas to go out on our bicycles and do together. This is the first time that we've all been, growing up and going through our own evolutions and growth and life and finding our spouses and starting our families and all of these things. And this is kind of the first time where we were really forced to come back together. Not forced, like we've always had friendly relationships.
Christmas again.
Right. Spent holidays together, things like that. But we didn't call each other weekly or monthly or check in on each other semi-regularly, we were all just in our own separate worlds a lot. And this brought us to this place of having to work together. It was for me, it was seamless. It's we didn't skip a beat. It just was like a vortex of just we've got to do this. Let's go.
We were all just super supportive. It felt like, to me at least. And
we each knew our role. Like Josh was like, this is mine. I'm taking this. And Nathan was like, I'm going to do this. And I was like, over here in Colorado. And I was like, I'll write the, what can I do?
Yeah, we did a good job. Josh definitely, I think the biggest thing you're guilty of is trying to take everything on. That was your biggest
the
weakness
big brother
in all of this is trying to just be the do it all. And I remember, us having a couple of conversations about, dude, you got to delegate some of this stuff. I was like, I pick things up and I put them down, but it's finally we all kind of reached a point where it's yes, you have to do this or do these two things or do these two things so we can get this stuff accomplished. But yeah, I agree. It was pretty seamless. We were all just they're ready to help, like troops hitting the ground kind of thing, like rebonding through re-trauma kind of thing.
Definitely. Yeah. And it took a couple of days once we got out there just to be able to know, even for me, the load and what it was that we had to go through, what frame of time it was going to take.
First rodeo with this.
The challenge was we had to get everything done that week, so that way we could tackle it from a distance, everything else, because we're all in different states, and it would just be too much to be able to go back and forth, and very costly. That week was a very high cost as it was, financially in life, and for everybody, everything that was happening. So trying to coordinate a strategic plan, timing, getting it all together, and then how we're going to go about it every day, and then who we delegate what to. Within the first couple of days, that was pretty much my main function at Judy's, and coordinating with y'all. And I think by Monday we had a pretty good affirmation of everything, where we were at, staying ahead. Nathan, we accomplished. I still don't know how we did it that weekend. I mean, we knew what we needed to do, and I think it worked in a good way for us to work through stuff as we cleared out his stuff from Judy's. But by Monday, with that done and being able to go to Mom's, we were able to say, hey, Jennie can help with this, writing the obituaries, taking care of this, and doing that from a distance. And then, I did
logistical funeral
funeral stuff,
announcement things to make sure all the plans were in place and the flowers were going to be there, and the obituary and pamphlets and all of that.
I took a load off. And then that way Nathan with the truck helped with transporting some of the bigger stuff we needed to do. And then I had my Jeep there so we could divide and conquer where we needed to, and then tag team it where we needed to. And it was able to get a lot more done, even amid skunks and car engine issues and workshops and all that. So in the end, though, it all came together literally the day before, and then I hit a point where I'm like, all right, if it's not done, well, it is as it is. It's as good as it gets. So we managed to get it all done from a distance, and then since then, somehow or another, we've managed to. I've gotten all the paperwork side wrapped up. We've had our conferences over the phone each week, staying up to date, and I think it's definitely drawn us closer. And that seems to be a thing of late over the last 5 years, 10 years, as death has brought everybody closer in the family. And, now it's what we got to do with next steps. Being closer in Colorado will help us with reunions and being there for family, each other, and the next round of growth. So new adventure begins as life leaves us, and new life coming in. Jennie with your little baby girl and my niece, I can't wait to see, and all the stuff we have to come from there when we get to Colorado. So fresh starts and new beginnings.
So that's kind of what life, and then we all got home after that, the planning week and the funeral, and then we all went back to our respective homes and lives, and then sometimes they say that's kind of when real grief sets in, when there's not a checklist of a million things to do and handle.
Right.
And that was definitely true for me, and so we've all just been kind of trudging through the last month or so and keeping in contact and checking on each other, and that's kind of how we came to decide to be here and do this episode. I was feeling extremely distraught and broken and hopeless, and like I didn't know how to keep doing the podcast without him. And after a conversation with Nathan, I had the light bulb idea that there needed to be some acknowledgement of his passing publicly on the podcast. I couldn't just make some social media post about it and then just keep going like nothing happened. And so that's why, and you guys both agreed to that, which I'm so grateful for. And so that's why we're here today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start let's tell some of our favorite dad stories to share with everybody. Our favorite dad memories. Who wants to go first?
Well, I guess I would take the reins by the horse here. So shoot,
Horse by the
Dad
reins.
was, yeah,
I like your version.
I said, yeah, right. I was
It's a more
waiting for someone
interesting
to correct
image.
me. You know how she was the one that corrected me first, right, Nathan? Yeah, I was waiting for it. Our brotherly sisterly roles really truly what that goes into. It's interesting the dynamics because the one person always talked about the family dynamics was Dad and the role each sibling plays. I mean, he's always talked about how he enjoyed watching us as we developed. And he and I would talk about stuff like this off and on too, especially when I had kids and seeing them. And I'd talk to him and ask him about, hey, remember seeing this when we were growing up, or I remember this, and he remembers seeing that with me, or more Jennie, or more Nathan, or a bit of all of us. But kind of how each person is in their role. The eldest sibling is protective and watching out for the other two, and the younger ones, and then the middle one is can take sides with either the oldest or the youngest, and then the youngest of all,
play
of
you
course,
both against each other.
yeah, and then the youngest can just watch us and get through and be the get all the pass me downs and get what they want, and we take care of everything for them. And it was interesting to watch that and talk to him about that when I had Lisa and Xander, and worries we had and cool things that came from that. So but seeing that, the one person to correct you every time, Jennie would always correct me when I was saying a word wrong when I was singing, and Nathan would I don't care, and Dad would just sit back and laugh at it because when we talked about it, he remembered it. So each of us had different things we spent more time with him. I can relate back to childhood. Where we kicked it off the most was when we were wrestling and tickling, and then learning chess, and he was teaching me that at like 5 years old. So that was one of the biggest connections until I started reading. And fourth grade, the love of reading hit me, and then suddenly Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling and Gary Gygax and some of these other popular authors Dad loved, and we connected on them and could share those stories, even going back and rereading those over time. And some of those in a good way too. Imagination takes effect and helps you to approach things from a new perspective, or to take new interest in things that takes you a little longer to dive into from reading. And he was able to understand that in a way, and we could talk about it growing up, and that he was always the one that I was approachable with and could share with growing up. So any hard challenges I was going through the school years, he was there. And best friends, of course, John Dewar, and we have those one or two that are nearest to you that you can share anything with, or anything you're going through that's tough. But Dad was always there and open to that stuff, and that was he was my sidekick for that. Mom was there too, of course, but for other things. And it's just interesting though, when you look back on those things, the things that you remember with Dad, the iconic mannerisms that you do that copy from him, or the moments where like you're ready to call him or ready for something, he's not there now, and those moments that hit you, and then you think back and go like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, oh, Dad did do that, and I do that now too. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do that in 20 years now? I'm going to be less like him. Oh, great. And yeah, and when from chess days to when he was we were playing the board games. Monopoly, he's the one I, got a lot of the gaming side from. When it comes to the boards, I think Mom's side was more with the ping pong and the physical activities next to Monopoly, but Dad's side, Risk and the war games and the technology, playing Descent on the computers back to back. You walk into his office down in the basement in the house outside Mason City, and it'd be like walking into a spaceship. You'd see 3 Dell computers and 7 or 8 Gateway computers, and this line of flashing lights in the dark, and all these piles of paperwork around them. And he'd know exactly what computer was designed for what that he used it for, which one was extra, which pile of paper had what stuff in it he needed for his conference calls. And he would like, don't mess up my pile of papers. And I'm like, which pile of papers are you talking about? And then I'd sit down on the chair that had the pile of papers he was talking about. Like, that pile of papers. Oh, okay. Do you need help organizing that and cleaning up? No. And then he'd walk into my room and goes, maybe I could use your help, Josh. Mom asked
You
me
were
to clean
always
up
the organized one.
Yeah.
You kept the
Mom would-
basement.
Well, I remember when Mom asked him to clean up everything in the office, and then he suddenly he came into the bedroom. After he built my room downstairs, and I'm in there on the bed one day, and I'm reading a book, and he walks in, and he's like, you're good at cleaning and organizing. I never truly noticed that before until now. Could you give me some advice and feedback? And I'm like, sure. And I walked out, and I'm not really knowing what he's looking at. And he walked me into his office and he's like, how would you go about this? I'm like, Mom got on you, didn't she? Yep. Well, I'd take it all into bundles and sort it from junk pile and burn pile and trash pile to what you do need to keep, and then have those in organized piles, and then clean up, vacuum and wipe everything down after that. Start at the top and work your way down, and that way you're not causing yourself extra work. And he's like, good tip. About 6 hours later, I come out of my room again, and I look in the whole fireplace, which is about 8 feet long downstairs at the time, brick, by maybe 3 feet in width, and he had it lined up with newspapers and magazines wrapped in twine. And he's like, these are going to recycling, these are going to the burn pile, and these are going to the trash. And I'm like, wow. And then I walk into his office, and he's got organized piles of paper, and you could actually see the desk and the floor. And I'm like, hey, I can sit in the chair again. And so, there'd be moments after that he'd ask me for feedback on some of that, and then he actually started doing it himself, and that was kind of an incentive for him. Kind of shared the load in that way. And then, of course, I was very inspiring help to physically help him take everything up, load him up in the car, and take him to the recycling place, which was a lot of fun in a Tercel at the time. But the things we think back to with that, that transition from that and being close to Michelle stuff in high school and playing on the Nintendo 64 with GoldenEye, and all the way through the college experiences and phone calls we'd have, and the thing at the celebration of life. I shared the story about driving. I was his first. That first child's always the experimental child. To kind of cut a long story short, we were driving down the snow bank after probably been 8 months of test driving, and permits, and I'd gone out on my own a few times and without my actual license at the time, because I had to practice by myself. And
yeah. What's the statute of limitations on that?
Yeah, well, I think 7 years.
This was back in the day when you could learn how to drive on the country roads.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, hey, and we were cutting that corner. It was icy and snowy on the ground. It was packed tight, and and I put the brakes on, and we just started going faster, and we're gliding. And when you hit that, all you can do is kind of do a intentional
Jesus take the
slow crash, and so he definitely made some screaming noises, and I made a few grunts, and then I'm like, well, we'll get this, and we're gonna end up in the driveway. I just don't know in what condition, but we'll be okay. And I remember him holding the handle like this on top of the his passenger side door handle on the ceiling. And
for the kids these days, we call those oh shit bars.
Yep. And we came up with our little circle driveway, and I put the brakes on, put the parking brake on, and then turned the wheel, and we spun around about 3 times, and landed in perfect parking position next to the house. And he looked at me and said, and to start, I thought he was going to, be shouting or doing something. I didn't really know what to expect. And when he laughed his ass off, I'm like, oh boy, what did I do? I'm like, I'm in for it now. I'm never getting my license now. And
he's broken.
All I can remember him saying was after was him going, don't tell your mom about that because she'll never let us drive together again. And that's one of those moments that always stuck with. And then he started calling me Bad Cheetah after that for a number of years, just between us when I was out. when we were out and doing stuff, you're like, bad cheetah, stop that. Because after it reminded him of something I had done during the driving. He had explained it once, but I can't remember how he explained it. But it was after that bad cheetah commercial with the cheetah chasing after the animals. And then it would change over time, and it became a guy with the Doritos, and it was cheetah back and forth. So and the guy said bad cheetah.
Bad cheetah, yeah.
Because he ate all the Doritos, and Dad was calling me that after that commercial. So, but he was definitely an instrument of learning, vast wealth of knowledge. You never quite knew what to expect, and when he did have something that frustrated you with him, it was one of them trivial matters that you just kind of took like, really? And even in college and going through during those times, and some of the phone calls he got, including from me. And I remember one night when I was, we'll keep some details confidential on that night for another time, but
Please do.
just fun times of phone calls. And he's like, where you at? I'm like, I'm driving down a one way, and oh, there's a sidewalk. Oh, I'm on a sidewalk. And, there's moments like, well, let me call you right back, Dad. And, there's times where we had a little too much fun. He'd call me back like, are you okay? And in a good spot to talk? I'm like, yep. He's like, so what were you calling me about earlier? I'm like, when did I call you earlier? And then it would stream a whole long conversation. And I remember about different things in life and girls and this and that. And he's like, are you doing your studies? I'm like, oh yeah. What did you learn today? Well, made it to these 2 classes. I'm passing them with a B. And I know I showed up for what I needed to and left a little early, but missed just a gen ed. And, the conversations that you remember and think back to. And he said what he needed to say. And then when I needed him a couple of times, he was there. And it's just, he was always sacrificed to be there for us. Even the long distance thing with him and Mom back in the day, he always said, his number one thing was to make sure that he did what he needed to move out. And like when it went from Pennsylvania to Illinois, to be there for all of us, because we were his life. We were his purpose in life, and everything he did revolved around us. And that's also another reason he was wanting to move to Colorado. He was due to do that in mid-April. He was almost there, but other plans were in place for him. And another reason, that running joke, he's sitting up there laughing that he got out of another move yet again. We got to move all of his stuff and cleaned out his storage locker again for him, all in one fell swoop. So
you just reminded me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you just sparked a memory for me of phone calls with Dad, which I'm sure we all have, numerous histories with that. But like, from now thinking from like what it must have been like from his perspective, and how the hell did he not have a heart attack earlier? Like, like I'm just thinking about one from me personally in college. It was like, I think it was my senior. It was either junior or senior, but I think it was my senior year. And it was finals week, and it was like my biggest final was the next day. And I'm a procrastinator, and so I took a 5-hour energy. I was drinking a lot of caffeine back then, but I took a 5-hour energy, and then I had already been up for like 48 hours straight or something like that. Like, it was just like a crazy time, and took another one about 20 minutes later, which you're not even supposed to take more than one in 24 hours kind of thing. And I just remember calling Dad. I don't even remember the details. I remember the only details I do remember were like my heart was in my head, and I was like running down. I lived on a street that had like a bike path that just went on forever near St. Louis, and just booked it. I just remember being on the phone yelling like, I'm gonna die, I'm crazy, whatever is going through my mind at that time. Like, I'm freaking out, just my shirt off, just running, just straight up running. And I think I was only on the phone call with him for probably like 10 minutes, and he probably didn't even say a word other than, what's going on? Just like hearing this pure panic come from the other end of the phone, and then click. Just like probably nothing for like till the next day. I probably like just went home and passed out, or I don't remember. But just, yeah, like stories that we all probably have like that, of just like what it must have been like from his perspective. Of just,
I didn't know that you had energy drink story too. So
yeah, because you do.
My sophomore-ish year, maybe, I had stayed up, sophomore, junior, I don't know. I had stayed up and I was drinking, I don't remember the brand, but it was like, they were like the big cans,
like the Monster
cans.
kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't Monster, but it was something else. And they were grape flavored and so delicious. And I bought 4 of them. And then it was finals week and went to the library to pull an all-nighter. And I failed to, one, you shouldn't drink 4 of them anyway. But I thought each one was 1 serving.
Yes.
And each can was 2 servings. So I essentially drank 8 energy drinks in like a 12-hour period overnight. And then tried to go back to my dorm room before going to class to take my first final, and was obviously like freaking the fuck out, and called Dad, and he was like, you need to go to the hospital because I think your heart's. So he stayed on the phone with me while I like panic ran to the emergent. There was a little hospital like 2 blocks down from our campus, and yeah, I mean, I was fine. They hooked me up to an EEG for a few hours and then sent me on my way. But yeah, I didn't know you. But my freshman year, the one that should have given him a heart attack, or could have, was it was literally freshman year. It was like the week before everybody else arrives. Freshmen show up on campus first, and at our school, so does Greek life. Greek life shows up on campus the week before school starts, because they get to start recruiting freshmen. And so it's freshmen and party houses on campus for the first or the last week of August or whatever before school started. And me and my new dorm mates were at a house. And obviously we're underage, and the cops show up to break up the party, and I had my pink Razor phone hooked on my belt loop pants, and we took off running. And then got back. I eventually got back to my dorm. I couldn't find my phone, blah, blah, blah. And then Dad called my roommate's phone, because he had gotten her phone number for just such a situation like this. I called her phone, and she put me on her phone, and I was like, hey, Dad, what's up? And he was like, I know where your phone is. And this is long before iPhone tracking, smartphones, all of that. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, so-and-so, like Sam or Steve or, the campus security has it. And I was like, what? That's crazy. I've lost it. I've been looking for my phone. And he goes, yeah, they have it. They want you to go down to the office and pick it up. And I was like, oh, but it's dark out. Can't they just bring it here? Anyway, eventually I had to come clean because he knew, like, campus security had picked up my phone at a party and looked through it and found Dad's cell, and called Dad and was like, hey, we found your daughter's phone. She probably wants it back. Do you know how to get a hold of her? Anyway, but that from that, he didn't lecture me. He never was like, I'm so disappointed, or what are you doing? Or, he was just like, so what have we learned?
Yeah. I'm glad you're back safe. Yep.
I'm glad you're safe. Like, he would give me like a being safe speech. But he never was like, don't do what college kids are going to do and live your life.
Mm-hmm.
But he always like gave us, right. Well, and then later on the joke became, yeah, but I outran him. Aren't you proud of me? I didn't get a ticket. I didn't get arrested. But Dad was always like, I jotted this down a few minutes ago. Like, he never judged us, at least in my experience. He was never judgmental when we messed up or, made undesirable choices. He would lecture us about how to do it better next time. He would like have conversations about it. He would reiterate the importance of making a different choice, and here's why. But I never felt judged, even getting caught on campus underage at a party, losing my phone, getting picked up by the cops. And I think, and Josh, what you've said multiple times while you were telling your stories is that Dad was always someone we could talk to about anything. We could always tell him the truth.
That's something I always admired in him, not even just with us, but like, he was always the guy. Like, I always remember just being so in awe. I mean, up until, a month ago, he could talk to anybody about anything for any amount of time. And it just like always blew me away. He was just like always there to relate. And he always came with a heavy dose of empathy and understanding, and just kind of wanted to like help us navigate, when as it refers to us, help us navigate and help us figure out, like, let us reach our own conclusions about what the situation was and how we should maybe do it differently next time. And I think we all at least had that similar aspect in Dad.
Yeah,
for each of us. I'll be very quick about this one, but very similar about getting into trouble.
You don't have to be very quick.
I was. You guys just keep reminding me of these stories I wasn't planning on telling.
I told you as we talked, things would just pop into your mind.
Those triggers, but he was very. I remember. Oh, he was so pissed. But he kept his cool. Like, we've all seen Dad mad, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like, we all got the flaring nostrils.
This is not to say like that Dad never made mistakes or got angry with us.
He was perfect. He was always calm. He never raised it. Yeah. No. Anyway. So I think it was like the summer between 7th and 8th grade, or somewhere around that time. A group of my friends and I decided, I think I may have been the ringleader, to go egg some houses.
My memory is so foggy.
It's so foggy. Allegedly, we egged some houses. The courts are undecided still, but
How old were you guys? You were like 12 or something, right?
I want to say it was a summer between 7th and 8th grade. So yeah,
so it was 12, 13.
Yeah. Right around then. And I was obsessed with CSI. I was such a goof. I was wearing like rubber gloves as we went around, thinking that the Mason City, the 2,700 people towns CSI department was going to reconstruct the eggshells and nail me for the crime. They'll never get me. Such an idiot. Anyway, but I just remember the next day. So we had actually egged. Didn't know it, but we egged like the up and coming new police chief's house, and we had no idea.
All the people in the town of Mason City that you could have egged.
We had no idea.
Everybody knew he lived there. Everybody knew he lived there. He was our dare officer. He was our dare officer.
No, not Coulter. Marlowe. Anyway, the up and coming, not Coulter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Coulter's house. I was like, how did you not know where he lived?
It was the next guy in line. So he wasn't quite chief yet, but he was about to be. And And so we do that. We do the thing, and they chase us down. Me and a couple of my friends. And Marlo chases me down on the bike. His wife follows in a van. We're very cool. Why are you wearing the rubber gloves? I'm an idiot. And, sees one of the other guys with me throw an egg when he turns his back, to try to destroy the evidence. And anyway, the next morning,
Didn't you say you found... I'm sorry, tell your story.
We said all kinds of stupid stuff. Yeah, where'd you get
tell your story?
We found them. I don't know. Dumb. 12. And Dad gets a call the next day from Coulter. Hangs up the phone, comes into the room, talks to me. So why did I just get a call from the chief of police? What? I have no idea.
Clutch your pearl.
Why would you? And it was very kind of like I could see the little rage ball inside of his head, kind of thing.
The throbbing vein
that I was projecting. Yeah, but he was very much like, okay, we're gonna go down there, and in his best calm, just like he always was. He's very, very calm most of the time, especially when it came to like crises kind of things. And we went through the whole process, and it wasn't a big deal. Like we went for like an interview, and they nailed down the hardened criminals, and we went our separate ways after that. But I just remember
they wanted to scare you.
Yeah. We now know of the three. I won't name names, but we now know of the three of us, the friends that were involved, who the narc would be. So that's all I'll say about that. But but no, Dad was very cool, and I think he understood the non-seriousness of the whole situation, but not a good phone call to get even with your 8th grader. The chief of police rings you up, but yeah, he was very, very mellow and understanding, and like, here's the bar of soap you need to eat now kind of thing.
Well, and but at the same time made sure that you had to walk through the process of retribution, because if you just get away with something like that, that's when things can turn into more than, if we can get away with egging a house, what else can I get away with? And things can escalate.
Yeah.
Versus like, okay, you egged a house, you didn't hurt anybody, you didn't whatever, but you're also you're going to face the police, you're going to, you're going to pay your dues and make up for it and clean it up. And so you like, there's, relational parenting. And the more that we've done this podcast, and the more I've called it relational parenting, the more that I realize that we were relationally parented. And so, but the point is, he was calm. He kept his cool. But he still walked you through repair and retribution and doing the right thing. But didn't overly punish or scream at you or shame you or guilt you or any of these things. But you had to take the steps to correct the situation.
No insult to injury kind of thing. He's like, he kind of recognized, like, you already probably feel pretty bad about this.
Yeah.
I don't need to lay any more on you.
Yeah. Well, having to go down to the police station at 13 years old is terrifying. Like, piss your pants terrifying. This is your natural consequence.
Yeah.
You have to go face the music. Yeah.
It was all right. I mean, I was fine. I wasn't scared at all.
If I had to go down to a police station now, I'd piss my pants.
Oh yeah. Oh, now it's a little more serious. Yeah.
Yeah. I still get getting pulled over is still there's nothing in my car. I'm just like, oh my God, what if I'm doing stuff illegal and I just forgot about it? That like guilty conscience or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. The
earliest, just to lay it on thick with the whole him being calm thing. I think the story I told at the funeral, that we all probably remember differently, and we all had our different roles we played, obviously, in it. But when we were, I don't know if it was a game we all played or if this was just a game I was playing and competing with myself, but thought I was competing with you guys. Because siblings, you got to win, right? You got to win. And it was cloud watching, and this is probably my earliest memory, like, with him, because I don't know how old I was. Between
like 5 or 6?
Yeah, like between 5 and 7. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because I was 7 or 8.
Yeah, I was little. Yeah. I know that.
You were little, yeah.
And then, the front of our house, we're surrounded by cornfields, and the front of our house had these big, tall windows. I don't need to tell you guys. These big, tall windows with the sill you could kind of like sit in. Windowsill 5-6 feet, almost floor to ceiling kind of thing, or the window pane rather. And I'm just sitting there, and we're kind of like, just looking outside. And I think he was just in the room. I don't think he was there like actively watching with me or anything like that. I'm looking for the cool clouds. And then I see this one, and it's, as you guys know, touching the sky and the ground and kicking up dirt. And it's moving from right to left across the cornfield, kicking up all this debris. And, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best cloud ever. Dad, come over here and look at this cloud. And this is the part of the memory that's just like crystal clear for me, is like looking up at him and just seeing him just kind of look out of the window. It just seemed like for forever. And he kind of looks down at me and he goes, well, Nathan, that's a tornado. And then it was just like, I just remember after that, it was just like chaos. Mom obviously did not like the sound of, tornado. Oh my God, tornado! Get everybody get into the basement and get into the tornado room that we had. That was kind of news to me. I was like, oh, that's why we call that. I had no sense of,
always
like,
called it the tornado room.
We did. I don't know if it was before or after that, but whatever. That's what it was. This little bunker in the basement. But yeah, and I just remember he stayed up and like was watching. He went outside or was inside and outside watching the storm. A lot of the neighbors, most of the neighbors were like, had been there their whole lives and were farmers, and all their kids were outside apparently watching the storm go by. Mm-hmm. And it was, kind of far enough away, and you could just kind of watch the path that it's going on. And most of us or all of us are in the basement. And I just remember like the biggest overarching theme for me was like, I don't have a memory of like feeling scared in that moment. And I think it all came down, because I know, Jenny, I think you mentioned this. You were scared. Mom obviously was. I was
part
scared.
of the freak out. Tornadoes was one of my biggest fears till I was like 20 years old. I was mortified, and I constantly pointed at clouds when we would be driving and be like, "That's going to be a tornado." No, I was freaking the fuck out.
And I just remember not feeling that, or I don't have a memory of feeling that. And I think it came down to just him matter-of-factly just being like, oh, well, that's a tornado. And it's just like, oh, well, that's a rabbit. It's just kind of this like, and he's like, well, let's go do this. So, let's get into the basement. And then he had the big yellow, I'm sure you guys remember the big yellow flashlight that was a radio, and, probably had like an alarm or something on it too. But, tuning in and listening to we didn't lose power. I don't know why we had to use that, but we had like other radios, I think. But, using the emergency thing and listening to the storm. And I just remember just like wanting to be out there and like look at the storm, and that always stuck with me, was his calm and his curiosity, and that was just like what kind of summed him up, from an early impression for me. It was just like this really calm, curious kind of guy.
I think those are two really good words for him.
Yeah,
because he was
a 2 C words.
Calm and curious, and he always tried to tinker and see how things worked. And
if
anything, that was the one thing that drove me insane, because the first time he came to our first house here at Travis Ranch in Texas for his visit, I remember he came down for that first visit by himself when we first moved into Travis Ranch, our house up there here in Texas, and I just gotten the internet set up with AT&T Uverse. Everything was fast. It was great. It was like 100 megabits per second plus. Actually, no, it was 150 megabits per second at that time, which was fast. And much faster than what he had. I think he had 50 MBS, and he came in. He's like, "Wow, this is fast. I think I can improve this." And I'm like, I went to work and came back that day, and I'm trying to hook up to my internet when I was getting on my Xbox for a minute, do an update, and it wouldn't connect. And then went to my laptop, it wouldn't connect, and my phone wouldn't connect. I'm like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "What is it?" Well, my dad walked in, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I can't get connected to the internet." Like, "Oh yeah, I went down about an hour ago. I'm trying to mess with your DNS settings and make it a little bit more secure and faster." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Dad, it was fine. I had it already defaulted. I have it running through a whole separate modem and secure box, and I'm like, I don't need anything else on it." And I'm like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm trying to figure that out because it was working fine." I'm like, "Really?" So I remember restoring it to default completely, restarting it, rebooting it, changed the password on it, and I said, "Don't touch my internet again," and it is fine. And then I'm like, "Look how fast it is." I'm like, "It works just fine now." And he tried it, and he's like, "Wow, that is fast." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's 150 megabits per second. Look at the security on this part right here." It's like, "Okay, yeah, that's pretty good." I'm like, "Don't touch a thing." He's like, "I'm only going to try touch two settings." I'm like, "No, you're not going to touch nothing." He's like, "Well, let me log in." I'm like, "No, you can't. I changed the password already." He's like, "What?" He's like, give me a puppy dog face because he wanted to get into my network because it was so fast. It was faster than a T1. And I'm like, "No, it's working just fine." And it's like you always had to have that one thing to work with. It's like that one thing to get frustrated with on the trip was a GPS or his phone. And he'd be talking back at the GPS. So if there was something that he had to get route around, it was the internet or something. So I had to find
those
I had
are the
to
two coins of the tinkering.
I had to substitute my Xbox for the internet for his first visit because he hadn't really truly enjoyed the Xbox until then. Then he tried some games out, and then he was on the Xbox most of that visit.
Yeah. He didn't like to leave any stone unturned. If there was a stone to turn, he was going to look under it and find all the bugs. And
it would always surprise me because we build the sky fort together out at the old country house, and he's like, "Measure twice and cut once," as my dad would always say. Ever since Dad fixed the vacuum his dad couldn't fix when they were younger.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, "And Dad, that goes with the saying, you don't fix something that ain't broke," because he'd always tinker something that was working fine. It wouldn't work afterwards because he was trying to figure out how it worked. I'm like, "It's fine, just leave it." And I always knocked him with that, and then he'd bring up Murphy's Law, and I was like, "Shut up." So you never knew how it would happen, but those conversations are always going to happen at every gathering of any kind with him. It was always entertaining.
Yeah,
his dadisms.
Mm-hmm.
He was also a very stereotypical dad joker, which we saw a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
He would always say like, "You can cut any of my, dad jokes or whatever." And I'm like, "No, that's part of the charm of you being on there is that and the generational perspective that you bring. And then our relationship." Because I think there's a lot of people our ages or somewhere near, and they're like we said earlier, like Dad was also not a perfect person, and we all, he had his flaws, and we all grew up and went into adult life, and I did lots of my own therapies, not necessarily because of him or Mom, but just I struggled with mental health and stuff in college and afterwards and blah, blah, blah. But through that developed, healthier emotional skills and relational skills and all of these things. And then was subsequently able to have like these reflective, difficult conversations with Dad about things that he did do that were traumatic or not healthy or toxic or whatever. And I was able then as an adult to start calling him out like when they were happening. So like, we'd be on the phone and he'd make some comment about something that was like where he was just completely misinterpreting what I was saying or, whatever. And I was able to be like, hold, like right there, like that, don't do that. Or whatever. And I just forgot where I was going. Oh, but part of the reason that I wanted him on the podcast as a co-host, not just to show up once in a while, but I wanted to show people a healthy, for the most part, adult child and parent relationship that wasn't necessarily always perfect growing up. And that it took a lot of conversations, but like dad became receptive to hearing, that even with all of the good and wonderful things that he brought to our lives, he still made mistakes and there was still hurt. And that's okay. You have both. Everyone's going to have both. In any relationship that has ever existed of any kind, you're going to have good and you're going to have hurt.
Right.
And he was able to hear me when I would tell him those things. And he was able to acknowledge them or apologize for them or improve on them or whatever. And there's so many people I see, either anecdotally online, or that I know in real life who have cut a parent off or who have had to just distance themselves because they can't, as an adult, they have all of this, these pieces that of their childhood where they're hurt and they can't acknowledge them with that parent, or during holidays, that parent repeats those behaviors, and reopens the wound and is unwilling to hear the adult child when they're like, please don't do that. Or in our house, in our family that we're building, we don't act like that, or we don't say those kinds of things to the grandkids, or whatever. And there's a lot of like grandparents and parents of adult children who will just lash back and be like, I've raised kids and I've done this and I know better and I'm older and all of these things. And there is a respectful way to do it, but being able to have that open dialogue is so important. It's important from the time your children are small, but it's also important that if you are older, I don't know, we wanted to set an example. We wanted to show people that it is possible, and that you can have that relationship despite past hurts or imperfect childhoods or things like that.
Well, and it's just, it's life. It's you don't escape life without trauma. And I mean, just saying exactly what you just said is like, it's such a complex, messy thing. And it's a never ending process kind of thing. It's like, you don't reach, I'm going to offend somebody saying this, but it's like, you don't reach enlightenment. I don't think. It's just, you just keep progressing and growing and changing, and you do that together. And I think you guys starting this thing, that's one thing I personally at least was excited about when I heard about this, that you guys were kind of going down this road and stuff. I was just like, that's just going to be like a really incredible thing. And especially now, looking back at, this is going to be a huge part of his legacy. And it really speaks to that because, of our family history and, the rough divorce and all of those things. We all have those things that we need to kind of like heal from. And it was really cool to see you two come together and be able to talk about that, from an outside perspective, sort of from your guys' relationship. that was really something special, and even more so now. It's so precious.
Yeah. Having, there's so many parts of this, of him passing. I mean, when someone passes, it's never easy. And there's always, intense emotions and hard things to traverse and all of that. There's a few things that were really, and still are still hard for me. Was one, of course, like that there's going to have to be this huge pivot if the podcast was going to keep going, and also just feeling like, how do I do it without him?
Right.
Like it was our thing. Like it was my brainchild, but he was an integral part of the whole vibe and purpose of the podcast. So that was one thing. But the flip side of that was that I have a year of footage of conversations with him captured, not only for my memory and to rewatch and as a legacy, but to show my kids someday, and keep his memory alive and keep the lessons alive.
And sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to touch on, and he's never not going to be a part of this, right? Like, you guys started this thing together. You are a part of him. We all are, and you are the product of him in large quantities. And he's always going to be right there, sitting across from you. Excuse me. So you have that. So he's always going to be a part of this thing you guys built together, which is awesome.
Legacies, they live on.
I've felt, I think we each said some version of that in our parts of the eulogy at the funeral, about how we will carry forward the torch that he has passed.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been some really hard, like he and I have talked about parenting since I was a kid. And now that I'm finally becoming a mom, like, he got taken. And I've heard from so many friends who have also lost a parent, and actually specifically their dad, and then they had kids, how hard it is, like, each moment that they're like, oh my gosh, like, dad would have loved this, or grandpa would have thought this was so far, or he would have said this thing when they did that. And that, and then the other piece is that we were all literally on the phone the week before he passed away. He was apartment hunting. He had made the decision to move out here to Colorado.
Yeah.
He knew the three of us were finally going to be all in the same state, and that there was just, before we'd all been spread out around the country quite a bit. And now we were all ending up in Colorado, and he was like, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And he was apartment hunting and, asking, we were all making arrangements to go on apartment tours for him and help him find a place to live out here. And, and we did. There was a very ugly divorce when we were all teenagers, and we all kind of at that point started living separate lives. I mean, we were all getting older anyway, and kind of had our own friends and our own things. And Josh had just left for college, and I was in late high school. And so we were all kind of starting to grow up and enter adulthood and go our separate ways anyway. But, the divorce really, obviously, like, dad moved out. We had two different places to live. And then we all just like went into adulthood and kind of ran away a little bit from the messiness and ugliness of what that was. And we just kind of continued on that trajectory. I mean, we all came back around and for holidays and major things, but there was a lot of just like spreading.
Mm-hmm.
We all spread out. And we were all finally now that we're, 20 years later, ending up in Colorado together, and he was going to be out here. And I know mom has a 3 to 5 year plan to be out here too. It was like, we were all going to kind of be close again for the first time since all of that. And that just feels very like the rug got pulled out from under us.
Oh, absolutely. I think, for me too, that's probably the absolute hardest part was exactly what you said, coming from our family history and about to kind of get to a place where we can be closer. That's absolutely the hardest part, I think.
Well, and his whole, like Josh said earlier, he always told us like his whole purpose in life was us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was then translating now to we've all started our families. We have our spouses. Josh has kids. Lewis and I are starting our family. Like, he was coming out here to play grandpa.
Yeah.
And he was so excited, and he was excited to be with us, his kids, but he was excited to be out here too for the next generation and be grandpa full time.
And just like I think I told you both the other day, but like what you said, Jenny, about, once you have kids and you're going to start noticing like, oh, he would have loved this, or this is how or you see little things that he did that you do also. But like, me and my wife are working on being the fun aunt and uncle. Like, we're getting into that groove, and we're really excited to have Josh and his 2 little ones up here, and then, yours on the way, and get to steal them and spoil them and
free childcare,
and be right, exactly, and be their confidant and stuff. But just babysitting Ton, my wife's niece and nephew on her sister's side. The other day we had like a little sleepover, and little girl, little boy, and I already was channeling my inner dad. We had story time around the fireplace to wind down for the night, and the little girl was just adamant about telling scary stories. And I'm thinking, oh God, like I don't know how many times they've slept at other people's houses, but I'm like, you've never been here before. This is a stranger's house. Like, let's tell happy stories before bed,
right?
Kind of thing. And so the only thing I could think of, I didn't have anything ready to go, was, and you guys remember this, the Slithery D song, which I don't know.
You have to sing it. If you're going to bring it up, you have to sing it.
I don't know who wrote it. Your listeners and viewers can Google it.
Dad wrote it. I think Dad made it up. No, I don't think it came from anywhere.
It's the Beatles. It's the Beatles.
They did do a version. I think someone else originated it, but yes, I think you're right. They do. Yeah, they did do it. I've looked it up before. It is like a little.
Right, it's like we'll link this in the show notes for anyone who wants to go listen to the Slithery D song.
But that, and which is just like kind of, it's spooky, but it's just goofy. It just ends silly.
I mean, you could just sing it for everybody.
Oh God, I don't think I can. But but that, and then at bedtime, I just remember the one thing he would always say. We had nightmares that night. When the girl who was adamant about telling scary stories, 2 minutes after being put to bed, came in. Not enough time to have a nightmare, in my opinion. I believe women. I'm just saying. She walks into the bedroom. I'm having a nightmare.
This child was lying.
I don't think you've been asleep long enough or at all to have a nightmare. But using the phrase, now you guys don't have to go to bed, but you do have to lay there and keep your eyes closed. Like, that's the game. Like, lay there and keep your eyes closed, which was something I think he probably shouted at us at some point, over the years.
He did. He was really good at at sidestepping our, when we were little or whatever, and he'd put us to bed and we'd be like, I'm not sleepy.
Right.
He'd be like, well, you don't have to go to sleep, but you do have to lay there with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Which sounded like such a reasonable request. Right. We're like, okay, I guess I have to lay here with my eyes closed. Yeah. And we were young enough. It was like, we didn't know that meant that we'd probably fall asleep.
Yeah. It worked too. It actually worked. We didn't get another until the morning. We didn't get another, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm having a nightmare, whatever.
Aww.
It was cute. Yeah, it was very, it was very, very nice that night.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm sure Josh and you, Jenny, have or will experience that numerous times, but it was kind of fun to be able to pull a little trick out of the bag and keep that going.
Lisa puts herself to sleep, so does Xander. So they took away my thunder right there.
Yeah.
Lisa's older, though. How old is Tan's niece? She's little.
They're actually the same age.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was younger. Anyway.
Well, Lisa's she's Josh's daughter, so Lisa just is twice as big as... She's just tall. She's going to be in the NBA in 2 years.
The 6'4", linebacker build.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you guys wanted to say about Dad?
I think we've hit on a good variety of ways, experiences, and memories that pay good tribute to the man he was, and there'll be plenty more as we move forward too. Small things that we can take from it, but I think we definitely give him a good tribute and way to move forward.
That and exactly. Moving forward, I hope this, at least in some way, honors him and maybe gives some insight, but just launches, this thing forward, just like you said, Josh, just keeps this kind of going and is a healing and respectful way for you to keep moving on with this thing with him.
I already feel better. I've had a lot of blockages and
that's personal,
mental and mental and emotional blockages about the podcast, and just feeling very alone with my thoughts about it and feeling like I can't see the path forward, but I already feel just doing this episode and talking about him already has me feeling like maybe I can. And we have all of the guests. We've pushed out all of February's guests. And I pushed everybody out to March 15th.
Yeah.
So we now have guests all through April. And then I'm going to fill up May as well. So we still have guest experts coming on that I'll be talking to, but I'll also be inviting adult children and their parent or parents on to continue having these intergenerational discussions. So I have a lot of guest experts lined up that I've had lined up since last year, that I've just had to reschedule while we were grieving and processing and all of those things. But I don't want to lose the part of the podcast where it's me and potentially a boomer or a Gen Xer or, and having these different experiences of parenting. But then also I want to bring people on who have a story to tell about a parent-child relationship that's been healed.
Yeah.
And so if there's anyone listening who feels like they have a story to share in that realm, we would love to have you on. You can email me. The link is in the show notes, or it's just Jennie@jennieb.co. And yeah, so I want to keep that piece of it going. I think those conversations are really important. And it's important for people to witness that it is possible, that healing is possible. Those conversations can happen. And then the last thing that I remembered is that, Nathan, you had found a soundbite of Dad and Judy talking to Lisa. And so we had talked about kind of tagging that onto the end here. Is that something?
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Just to leave. Okay. So you can send that to me, just to leave everybody with like a little witnessing of, the kind of grandpa and person that Dad was, just listening to this cute little conversation between him and his granddaughter.
Yeah.
I think would be nice.
In honor, I know this is a part of the show that you're worried about losing out on. Probably biggest part of the show you're worried about losing out on was his dad jokes. Can I tell my favorite dad joke?
Yeah,
go for it.
It's pretty raunchy.
Most of them were.
Is it a dead baby joke?
No. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
I would never.
Okay.
Now I want to, because that's one Dad told me, but I wasn't going to go there.
I was about to throw pitchforks out there, but I held my tongue.
No,
it's not.
I wasn't going to do that. Okay, so it's a knock-knock joke. So who wants it?
Josh.
Josh, you want it?
Sure, hit me up.
Okay. Knock-knock.
Who's there?
I eat mop.
I eat my poo.
That's disgusting.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Nice. Mm-hmm. A poo joke coming from Nathan. Wow.
I mean, that's
amazing.
Yeah. You know what? Every 4 to 5 year old I tell that joke to, it kills. So
I mean, we laughed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's my favorite, like, under 8-year-old joke.
Nice. He's going to be such a good uncle.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you are an uncle.
Yes.
You'll continue to be a good uncle.
So I'm always, developing my uncleness.
Well, thank you both for being here.
You're welcome. I'll send you my PayPal information.
There is no money.
I got to look at the contract again, but I'm pretty sure. And I've talked to my agent, because I don't usually like talking about that kind of thing, but
okay.
We'll get back to you.
All right. Well, love you guys. And thanks to everybody who's tuned in. This will be a little bit longer of an episode. So anyone who's still with us, thank you for listening in. This has been a very important episode for us and for the future of the podcast. So yeah. If you guys want to say bye.
Bye. Love you. Thanks.
Love
you too.
All right.
Bye,
Happy parenting, and good luck out there.
Look.
Okay.
Hey, look at the picture.
Oh, there you go.
He texted back. See?
Mm-hmm.
You got a bad one again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Been in the microwave for 30 minutes. It's got 15 more to go. I'm kind of worried.
He's giving me a hard time.
And I took a shower. Didn't worry about it. He was texting when I was in the shower. Yeah, I responded when I got out.
Look at him. Go save him.
Okay, the ghost saved him. That's a good thing. I like that. See, there's a good ending to your story.
She's a big storyteller. She's good.
Well, I'm not surprised. Shower felt great.
You're not going to get the prize today.
I'm not.
Was that a surprise,
Aww.
Lisa?
Yeah.
That's not a surprise, is it?
You got thumbs down.
I got thumbs down?
Yep.
Uh-uh.
She got thumbs up.
Well, Lisa gets a thumbs up always, don't she?
Well, and I'll keep working. I'll get thumbs up someday. I'll keep practicing.
Look at my picture. Mine's great.
Very nice.
Yours is great.
She's a little artist.
Just
Yeah.
thumb.
Grandpa had the right idea about you.
She's too strong. She's a superhero. That's better. Thank you.
Grandpa had the right idea about this art kit for you. You are quite the artist.
So, you know, you wouldn't be sure.
She's good.
Oh, that's some pictures. See, you can learn to draw pictures like that. It's very hard, but you can learn.
So,
Rick, I guess you've seen this over here.
that's my,
I'm saving that till she's had some practice, and we'll use.
that's my,
That paper's a little harder to come by.
he starts, my grandma starts.
Did Lisa sleep good last night?
This is PVS.
PVS, okay.
This is my name.
Yes, it is, Lisa.
And she's making better L's this morning. She's being more careful. You're doing good. She's
I think
practicing
she
and getting
likes
better.
School. Do you like school? Yeah, you learn and it's a lot of fun.
I did.
Yes, you find out how smart you are, don't you? You're very smart.
I think she's too smart.
Why? Because she knows how to make frowny faces.
Too smart for her own good. That's her.
What you need, huh?
Oh, now careful. That just goes on paper now.
Where you
Remember.
going?
Nothing. I'm not going anywhere.
You want this? What do you want?
Go on here. Oh, she's going to make a. Yeah, see, she's using stencils. She made a ship
I see
with
that.
people on
I
it
know.
and a shark.
And see the sails on the ship?
Yeah, and decorated the sails,
Now, is
and
that
there's
for
ropes.
me?
There's a whole story
I
there.
was gonna say, what'd I do? Ooh,
You tell-
I was worried.
Can you tell Grandma about the bad guy and the arms getting chomped off and stuff?
What? What happened?
There was a bad guy.
I'll let
Yeah.
Lisa tell me all about it, dear. What happened?
Oh, you want that over there?
I need to sit on her lap. I need the paper.
Oh, you need papers?
I need all of it.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay. Here's all of it. And do you need some more stencils?
Yeah.
Here, I'll put these close to you too.
What's your favorite stencil so far? Have you got a favorite?
We got lots of those.
I like a lot of them.
Well, did you learn anything new? Or have you heard all of this before? Do you agree with us, disagree with us, have a question? We want to see you in our inbox or via the Patreon page in the show notes. Tap on either link to send us your feedback, share your own parenting story, or support our mission of providing a connected community for all parents. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you loved this episode, click on that little star and give us 5 of them so we can get visible to other parents who are looking for us. This is your weekly reminder. Parents, you already have everything you need inside of you. You are a strong, loving, capable parent. And here, you are never alone. I'll see you next week.